Welcome back to Virtual School Assembly. Today our guest is Bea Wray. Bea has dazzled audiences for 20 years speaking about entrepreneurship, leadership, and women in business. She's the author of What an MBA Taught Me, But My Kids Made Me Learn, and co-founder of the Millennial Women Network, empowering and mentoring women in 24 different countries. She's launched several high-tech and non-tech companies. After leaving one of those companies, Bea took 6 years off on a resort bridgeless island where she dedicated time to raising her 3 children. She holds an MBA with distinction from Harvard Business School and graduated summa cum laude from Emory University. Bea lives with her husband and 3 children in Charleston, South Carolina. And welcome to the show, Bea.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So that intro is a mouthful, but let's hear a little bit more about you. Tell us, leading up to the MBA and then with kids and raising your kids, tell us just a little bit about who you are, where you're from. Yeah.
Well, I'm from wherever you're from. I grew up in 13 different homes: New Jersey,
Wow.
Ohio, California, St. Louis. And so I love to make new friends and have a little experience doing so. What's particularly unique and I think interesting for your audience is I did choose to raise my children, as you just mentioned, on a bridgeless island. So I was very important in the PTO. We had 17 children in the entire student body, and 3 lived in my home. So I love education. I love being a part of their school, and I very much just enjoyed that small atmosphere and chance for people to grow.
Right. Now, often when we hear about kids being either homeschooled or being raised in remote areas, the question goes through a lot of people's heads is it because their parents are crazy or because they're really weird and want to be isolated? What made you decide to go to this bridgeless island and raise your kids there and do their schooling and everything like that?
Well, many people thought I was crazy, for sure. And as you mentioned, I've also just published this book, and I work with entrepreneurs. And one of the things I've learned from hundreds of entrepreneurs is the number one thing is to stick to your own guns, no matter how many people tell you you're crazy.
Right.
Do you want to guess what the number 2 thing is?
Don't know.
Listen to other people. So life can be hard balancing that, whether you're talking about a company or talking about raising your kids. And certainly there was an opportunity to question my own decisions. But what made me go there? It's on the map if you want to find it. It's exactly next to heaven. I mean, this place is on the Carolina coast, so that was one draw. But I think for me, quite frankly, it was my failure or my lack of confidence in being able to shut out what is coming at us so hard from our culture, 4-year-old soccer teams, just this over programming. And I just felt overwhelmed by huge schools. And I thought I wanted a place, I'm not a control freak at all, but I wanted a place that I could contribute more to my kids' learning and education. And so that's what I sought to do, and I really had that chance to do.
Cool. Well, so I would have gotten to this later in the interview, but because you bring it up, we're in an interesting situation right now with COVID, where we've gotten rid of a lot of those extra things, the soccer leagues for the 2-year-olds and all the extra stuff. How do you feel about that? Do you think this has been a really good thing for our society?
I wouldn't wish COVID on anyone, for sure. Right. And I'm very, very worried about the mental health of people not being able to be in community and be connected to each other, and loneliness. I'm very worried about that. And I'm certainly worried about the education, particularly of the people who need the education the most, who are not getting it in the home, that on anyone. That said, I also don't take for granted the time I've had with my children, the endless Scrabble games we've played, having a college student home, the bonding that's been happening in my home. So many great blessings. So we accept it. I wouldn't have chosen it, for sure.
Right.
So.
Okay. And that's fair enough. And I've talked about this on a few other episodes, but I've thought, again, I wouldn't wish COVID on anyone. And I'm especially nervous because we have a 6-year-old with asthma in our home. So her immune system's already compromised. So we're a little germophobic around here and things like that. But on that same note, it's been wonderful to have that extra time, to not have so many extracurriculars going on, and to be able to really enjoy being together and getting rid of some of the fluff that we don't need in our lives anyway. So it's been an opportunity for sure. So let's get back to some of your background. We kind of got ahead of ourselves, but I want to know why entrepreneurship in the first place. Why did you go into business? What kind of motivated all of that for you?
Well, it started very early, actually. I think my first companies were when I was in about 5th grade. So I've always been very interested in solving problems and not afraid to make a buck doing so. So very early on, I created it. It wasn't really a newspaper. There wasn't news, but it was like a coupon. 5th grade, and I just took an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and I sold pieces of it, sections of it for, I don't know, about $2.50 to local. I remember there was a sub shop, there was a barber shop, that kind of place, and said, I'll make X amount of photocopies and put them in people's mailboxes if you'll pay this amount of money. So that was one of my very early thoughts, thinking through, they weren't global corporations, they were the local mom and pop, and I wanted to help them get their word out.
Now, hold on. I want to pause on that because a normal 5th grader would not come up with that idea on their own. Was this something that your parents planted a seed for you, or were you just really creative? How did that idea come?
Well, it was definitely not my parents. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you about the second idea after, but I'll answer. I actually got in trouble with my parents. My mom came to me and she said, "Stop this. Neighbors are bringing us back. They think that dad has lost his job. You must stop this." I was mowing people's lawns and walking their dogs. And my second business was I started ironing men's shirts. And I got in trouble. My mom told me I must stop, which I didn't. Still not from them. It might have been that I wanted the actual income. I wanted to have the control of making the money. My dad worked really hard, be a same job for 33 years. And so we were not an entrepreneurial family at all.
Well, so that's amazing then that you did that. I get some of the same things from our neighbors because my kids are out in the neighborhoods mowing lawns, selling ice cream door to door, doing that kind of a hustle that most entrepreneurs do in their childhood. It's not unusual for entrepreneurs to start that way. But if you're not used to that, it seems a little unusual. So the neighbors do raise their eyebrows a little bit. So I'm glad you experienced that. Go ahead and tell us the next experience. You were going to say your second entrepreneurial venture.
Well, that was the problem I heard was men didn't like overstarched shirts that you got from the dry cleaner, and women hated ironing shirts. Well, I love to watch General Hospital, so I would mow the lawn, and I'm sorry, I would not mow the lawn. I would iron their shirts. I'd pick them up 75 cents per shirt, and then I could go do that.
Okay, cool. Well, I love to see that you were busy with that. And probably that has influenced what you've done since, obviously, with going to business school and doing some of those things. You've started a lot of different tech companies and sold a lot. And a lot of entrepreneurs do this. They're called serial entrepreneurs. And then just means I'm talking to the kids here, obviously you know this, but serial entrepreneurs will start and grow a business, sell it off, or move on to the next project. And that's a pretty common thing for serial entrepreneurs. So Bea, for you as a serial entrepreneur, why did you do that? What was the thrill in growing a business and then moving on to a new business? Why not just stick with one and grow it and become rich and famous?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, first of all, we'll just, for the students, there's a serial entrepreneur, one who creates cereal or breakfast food, and then there's a serial entrepreneur, the series of being an entrepreneur. I always love to play with words, largely because my kids have taught me that I'm often misunderstood, right? So I think they're understanding something, and then indeed we're not. But why did I do that? Well, first of all, not everyone is successful. Not every person is successful, and definitely not every entrepreneurial endeavor. And the same was certainly true with me. I have some not so valuable pieces of paper in my home, stock certificates on this company or that company. And they are really, I can't even use them as printer paper because they're already printed on both sides. But I also was very, very blessed, and I made one decent exit, which is in of itself a little bit of an interesting story. And that was the one that allowed me to take the 6 years off. Mm-hmm. And so lucky me, is a lot of entrepreneurs never make even one exit. I did face that decision at that point. We had just become profitable. I had just gotten to, am I building this for a family that I can pass on? Mm-hmm. Or am I building it to sell? And I wasn't smart enough to realize that I was building it to sell, but I was lucky enough to have an offer, and I took it, and that was a great, great, great thing for me.
That's really cool. Well, let's talk about your book for a minute. I love the clickbait title, you know, what an MBA taught me that my kids forced me to learn. Tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book, and give us a few nuggets from what you'll get if you read the book.
Sure. So I wrote the book because when I went back to work, I was, I had this fancy education, you've already mentioned, very expensive education, but I had lost all confidence. What could I actually offer? I'd been 6 years changing diapers and coloring pages and volunteering at the school. What could I offer the business world? And what was so amazing is that's when my career took off. That is when so many amazing things happened. By far, that following 9 months was more of an inflection point in my career than any time before or since. And I kept wondering, what am I doing? What are we doing as a team? And where did I get those skills? So I was getting flooded with thank you notes from entrepreneurs that we were coaching. Thank you for introducing us to that investor. Thank you for giving us a chance to speak at this event. Thank you for hosting this startup weekend, whatever it was. And I started to ask those questions, and the answer was pretty surprising. I didn't have the skill to help these people because I had attended Harvard Business School. I didn't have the skill to help these people because I had been an entrepreneur for more than a decade. I had the skill in negotiation, in collaboration, in delegation, because I had been a mom. And that was something that I really wanted to spend some time reflecting on, and to see two things. One, that parents tend to hide parenting as a valid spot on the jungle gym of our careers. It's like a black spot on our LinkedIn resume or LinkedIn profile. We don't highlight it. Whereas Sheryl Sandberg says, your career is not a jungle gym. I'm sorry, your career is not a ladder. It's not a linear way to move forward. It's a jungle gym. So the cover of my book is actually me in a business dress sitting on a jungle gym to pay homage to that comment and to illustrate that if the only thing I really want someone to get from it, or the most important thing, is more confidence and more give yourself credit for all of the places you have sat on your career's jungle gym, and definitely credit for those most important areas of life, which are people skills. And so if you are a parent, whether a father or a mother, those are valid opportunities for growth in the most important areas in business.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's interesting because if you talk to any successful person and ask them, where did you grow the most? It's often through our failures and our non-traditional things, parenting. Certainly I can look at my own life. I was a stay-at-home dad for a short period of time, and I learned so much with my 4 small children at home that I would never get in business. So I know that's definitely true. So as we look back at the successes you've had, both as a mom and as a business owner, what advice would you give kids looking forward as they prepare for an uncertain future, where they might be considering entrepreneurship and certainly thinking about just living a full life? What's some general advice that you could give these kids?
Well, I think the number one thing is to always just be a lifelong learner. Is think about situations. What am I getting from this? Who am I meeting? How do I build that network? And I think it is great that we encourage people to follow their passions, and realize that if you find something that you love, you can really, there's no end to what you can do. And yet, I feel, I'm a little opposite to many people. I feel that right now we're pushing our kids way too early to decide what they want to do. We're afraid to send them to college until they know their major. Or, when I went to college, we were allowed to explore the whole first 2 years. We were allowed to take classes because we loved learning. We wanted to learn art history. We wanted to learn Spanish literature. We wanted to learn different things. And I really would say embrace learning. Every time you learn something new, that will never leave you. And I've even had 8th graders say to me, or something like that, well, you have a body part, you have eyes, don't you want to be able to talk to your doctor? So I can give you a reason for why you should care about all of these subjects. But I don't want to have to argue with you to give you that reason. I would just say instill, and if someone is listening to this, they probably already have that. So pat yourself on the back that you're curious enough. Go listen to the other 148 episodes and just embrace what you can hear and learn. And there's no end to where that can take you.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Well, Bea, it's been fun hearing your journey and your experiences. If kids want to learn more about you, or if they want to get a copy of your book, where should they go online?
Oh, thank you so much. So my name is Bea Wray. So it's Bea, and the last name is Wray. So you can find me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. My book, you can type in that name and find it on Barnes & Noble. The book is called What an MBA Taught Me, and the tagline is, but my kids made me learn. I think it's easier to just type in my name, Bea Wray. I like to say I'm a Siri tells me every morning, Bea Wray. She's instructing me to Bea Wray. And if you do, first of all, thank you. And second of all, private message me and let me know that you did, and let me know that you did because you heard this recording. And I have a special gift for you. So whether it's you're getting it as a Christmas present for someone, or a birthday present, or a Hanukkah present, or just to get, I would really, really love to directly hear from you. And just say thank you. I have a whole chapter on gratitude. So I spend a lot of time just being grateful, and that's a wonderful mindset for me. So I would love the chance to show my gratitude to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. We'll connect those things in the description so people can connect with you. It's been a real pleasure hearing your story. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.